How are you, my dear?
I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, really well. Yeah.
Good, good.
I
Thank you for posting about all that shit that was going on in the cosmos last week. Oh my gosh. That was just one of the layers of the onion, but I was like, oh, it's good to know that it's not me, it's the bloody universe.
yeah. I mean, I'm kind of I follow this all the time, constantly. So yeah, and some of the channels that I follow are, they're following it. And the reason I follow them is because they've been talking about this time for years. So they've been like preparing us for years. So it's kind of like now it's here. It's kind of like, oh, okay, this is what you were talking about. So, you know, it's not like somebody's just appeared and kind of making up what's going on. It's kind of like, they were telling us this for a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
So, yeah, now we're finally actually going through it.
Yeah, I know. It's kind of quite exciting, and it's nice to know sometimes it's all going a bit blooming mental. It's actually not my fault.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it is so imperative of where we're putting our focus at the moment. So it is essential. Self-care is essential. Um, it's just not a luxury anymore. It has to be a daily choice.
Yes.
And but also um it's really, really important not to, not to allow the media to
Oh yeah, I mean,
to
the whole
lead us
thing.
down. It's just unbelievable. I mean, I'm guilty of it too. I'm human, so I do have days where I'll start watching stuff on YouTube, and then and you just go down, and then I'll
You go
share
down
it
the
on
rabbit hole.
Facebook.
Yeah, I consciously do not engage with the news. I don't watch the news. I don't engage in it. But I generally have the radio on in the background, and some days I'm really aware of how much bad news there is, and I just keep thinking, well, where you place your attention is where the energy's going. Why are we all bad news? And even in all this bad news, there's amazing good things happening. Just looking at the ladies who left their buggies for the Ukrainian refugees on the side of the train platform where the train was arriving. That's good news. Let's share the good news. Let's not focus on the bad news. I get a little bit.
It gives us a completely skewed idea of what the world is like, depending on whether we watch the news at 10 or not. It's just,
Yes.
it's ridiculous.
Yes, I agree. I completely agree. I'm almost on a crusade to start Let's Talking Good News. But when I wrote the post about it, I thought, oh God, does it sound really flippant given everything that's going on? Is this, so I parked it for a week and thought, no, just think about it and see what you really want to do. But yeah, it's interesting. Anyway, let's talk sound of gongs.
Yay!
Yay! So for my tribe, they might not necessarily be very familiar with sound healing. Can you kind of explain a little bit about sound and gong baths and what they are and how they work, and even how you came to do all of this beautiful work?
Wow, how I came to do it was because I was working in the NHS in a really stressful job, and got burnout. Overworked, underpaid, all of that really, and yeah, constantly being bombarded by negativity, people's negativity, because people are stressed, people are frightened, people want to see the doctor now. Being a sensitive person, an empath, I just took it on and took it on. I didn't realize, I didn't really understand about the energy body and how you can take things on energetically and how other people's energy can affect you. So pretty naive, really, seems that I've always been on a spiritual path. But I suppose when you can't see it, when you go out in the world and you get dirty, you can see it on your clothes and you wash your clothes, don't you? Whereas energetically, that's still happening. You still pick up people's moods, people's opinions, people's beliefs, and although a few years ago that might have sounded a bit woo-woo and new age hippie, but actually we all have experience of entering a room and not feeling comfortable in the room, and because somebody's just had an argument, or you know, or you
Someone's
go
come in a bad mood, you just but just like, you know, someone also walks into the room and lights it up. We've all had those experiences. I'm just like you in that I'm a bit, it took the menopause for me to then realize I was highly sensitive, and that I was absorbing everybody else's energy all around me, and that was the work I had to do to balance my energy and clear it. But you know, similar to you, on a spiritual path, I teach yoga and meditation and mindfulness. Why did I not get the whole energetic piece, for goodness sake? And now it's so obvious. It's like, oh, for God's sake, you know.
And it is. Well, I mean, partly it's the society we live in. You know, our westernized society. We're totally disconnected from anything more spiritual or what we can't see. So you know,
we're so conditioned out of us, isn't it?
We are conditioned out of it, because as human beings, our natural state is to read and feel energy. So it's not just, you know, energy work isn't just for the few, you know, highly sensitive or empathic people, or you know, special psychic people or mediums. Right? We all have this ability. We all have this ability to read energy. We engage in energy all the time. We're just not conscious of it because we haven't been taught what it is and what happens when we engage with different energies. So that example of walking into the room is a really good one, because everybody has had that experience. And what it really is that your energy field is reading the energy of the room. You're just not consciously aware of it. But if you were taught how to read energy and the energy and electromagnetic fields are, you know, are real and they do exist, then you'd instantly know. You'd go into the room and think, oh, okay, the energy in here is a bit odd. You know, has somebody just had an argument, or maybe something, you know, negatives happened, or you know, or maybe it's you know, it's just that particular room doesn't get very much sunlight, so it's very dark and dingy, you know, and that breeds mold and you know. So, you know, there's all these different sort of reasons why we might feel comfortable or uncomfortable around people, about places. And we still feel this, but it's very much on an unconscious level until we become consciously aware of it. So it's a bit like wearing black and not seeing the dirt on your black clothes, but if you were wearing white, you'd see it, you'd identify it sort of quicker, so you'd like shove it in the washing machine before it got really, really grungy.
So I think too, that whole just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. It's so easy to demonstrate if you put two magnets near one another. You can't see the magnetic field, but you can see the effect of it, and that's the same thing. But it's just that shift in understanding and knowing, isn't it, and sort of being.
And it's returning to wisdom that we always had. You know, our ancestors knew it. The you know, the tribal people still know about it. It's literally only really within the last couple of 100 years that we've lost the ability to interact and read energy, because we've become so disconnected from the natural rhythms of life, our own natural rhythms. You know, everything has you know, everything is a circle, whether it's day, night, you know, the seasons, you know, our own life cycles. Everything is a cycle. And you know, there's a reason why you're more tired at certain parts of the day and more awake at certain parts. You know, if you're getting proper rest and sleep, then you know, we're not programmed to be up working, you know, in the dark, and you know, we get out of balance really, really easy. So and why do we feel so good in the spring? You know, the sun is shining today, I've got the windows open, it uplifts you. But you know, why is that? Why does it feel more uplifting and more positive and gives you more energy? You know, it is all to do with photonic energy and electromagnetics. But the exciting thing is now that spirituality and science is coming back together now.
Absolutely, I love this. I love understanding the science behind it all and what's working and what, you know, it's fascinating. Really fascinating.
I mean, I think grounding, you know, is a really good example of this. So you know, grounding is a thing now. You know, walking barefoot on the earth is a thing, you know, because they've proved that, you know, the electromagnetic field that you get through your feet, you know, and it can help with depression and all sorts of things. But that's only because science is now sensitive enough to actually measure this. So although the sort of our ancestors, and especially like the Aboriginals, Native American, tribal people, always knew that we should be walking around barefoot as much as possible because it's, you know, because it made us feel better. They
Yes.
might have interpreted it in another way, you know, by saying, oh, it, you know, it connects you to Mother Earth and everything like that. But whatever language you put around it or label you put around it doesn't matter. It makes you feel better.
Yes.
It you know, so if it makes you feel better, who cares really? You know.
But it's interesting, isn't it? Because we so innately know that, and kids are so brilliant at being so intuitive and innately know that's the dog going for the cat. And yet we somehow sort of condition it out of them. You know, how do we encourage that in our kids rather than condition? You know, now we know the importance of it. How do we encourage their intuitiveness rather than condition it out of them?
Well, the school system's got a lot to answer for. That's a completely different.
That's a different story.
Yeah,
that's another one.
I mean, I would say I would encourage their imagination, because the imagination is our intuition, and that's how our subconscious you know, communicates with us through images, through dreams, through ideas, through inspiration, through creativity. So, and you know, it's very feminine, it's very left side brain, it's very you know, all of that stuff. As a society, we're very male dominated. Nothing wrong with, you know, we need it in balance, but we've gone too far over to the kind of logical, analytical, intellectual, you know, go do yang, action, fire, energy. And we've kind of lost the ability to connect with the more feminine side of us, the right hand side of the brain, the creative, the intuitive. And the feminine always needs to come first. You always have to have the idea, and then to go out and actually take action in the world. So it's that balance of with, you know, as a yoga teacher, you understand about the in breath and the out breath. You can't just keep breathing out. You know?
I think actually that's really interesting, because as you know, I like specialize in menopause, and I think that's what the menopause is inviting us to do, to turn inwards, to come back to that creativity, that femininity, you know, that beautiful wise woman, the wise sage, you know, but it's packaged in society as, you know, kind of a whole different, with a more negative concept, you know. But I think it's really interesting that as we start to get into that more wise part of our lives, we are being drawn to come inwards. And you know, it's a spiritual journey as much as a physiological and a physical and a mental journey, you know.
Yes. You could say that sort of like when we're first born, we are in that more feminine, intuitive, creative you know, state of mind. I'm a trained hypnotherapist, so you know, I know that from the ages of 0 to about 5, 6, 7, we're in the theta brainwave state. So we're downloading. That's the theta brainwave state is that kind of that lovely daydreamy light trance. Everything's magical, you know, and that's also the brainwave state that I'm trying to get you in my sound baths, to return you back to that childlike innocence and creativity, where, you know, the limiting beliefs and the programming that we picked up from, you know, from our families, from society, from our culture, from advertising, from marketing, all of that kind of you know, can drop away, and you can get back in touch with who you truly are as a soul, as a heart. So you could say that we're in that feminine state in the first stage of our lives, and then as we grow older and get into teenage years and in our 20s and 30s, where, you know, we are more young, more outward, more action orientated, and then, you know, towards that sort of second half of our life, we're starting to go back inwards again. You know, we have got more intuition and wisdom and experience behind us, and, you know, it's so sad that the elders aren't respected and valued in Western society like they are in the more, you know, tribal areas of the earth. It's just because we've got so much wisdom when we get into our sort of like 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and so much to share, and it's just what society values, isn't it? And society has, for the last sort of like definitely the last 50 years, but probably even longer, again since the Industrial Revolution, it's all been about outside attainment, outside stuff, whether it's money or cars or houses. It's all about sort of reaching something outside of us. And of course, a lot of people that manage to attain those things can still be quite unhappy and empty inside, and not really understand why, because they've done everything right. They've done what they were told to. They went to university, they got that good job, they've worked really hard, and they've got to retirement, and they're well off, and they've got their house, but it's kind of like something's missing. What is it?
But it's having that inner happiness, that happiness for no reason, that it's regardless of what's going on outside, you've got that inside happiness and contentment. And I think that gets conditioned out of us as we're striving for all this stuff that society says we should have, relationship, mortgage, degree, job,
it's all trying to sell us something at the end of the day, isn't it?
And make us feel like we're not enough as we are, and yet we are enough as we are. It's as simple as that,
Yeah.
So let's get back into sound and gong baths. Gosh, we've gone off on a tangent, haven't we? I knew we would. I love it. We've only done 20 minutes. Right.
Well, as you know, I could talk all day about this.
Oh, me too. So this could go on forever. Good job we haven't got a glass of wine, as it would. So, Angie, sound and gong baths. Tell me about how they work, how the healing works, the energy side of it, the and what people could sort of expect if they've never been to a sound and gong bath.
Sound baths, everybody experiences them slightly differently, and even if you're a regular attendee of sound baths, they can be very different, because we're all in a different place every day, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. So when I first started going to gong baths, it was a very spiritual experience for me. My first gong bath, I kind of went somewhere. I was having all these amazing visions, and I was like a Native American woman on the top of a mountain drumming and all this sort of thing. And it was just like amazing sort of spiritual journey. But that's not the same for everybody. And some people, it's a very physical experience. And I remember the third gong bath that I went to, because I enjoyed the first one so much. I went to the next one and I journeyed again, and that was great. And then the third one, I kind of like, I rock up thinking, oh, I know what to expect. And then I had a completely different experience. And it was very, And it is something that I try and remember to say to people, especially if they're new to sound baths, is don't have any judgments and don't have any expectations, because it really is about letting go of the conscious mind and letting go of control, because we are taught to be in control all the time, and that's partly what makes us suffer mentally, is because we're trying to control things that we can't control. So it is about complete surrender, and some people find that easy to do and some people not so easy to do, and some people sort of find it hard to do the first sound bath they have, and then as they do more they get used to it and then just start to let go. And I've had some clients that have just blossomed and opened up over sort of the weeks or months that they've come to sessions, and that's beautiful to watch. So the wonderful thing about sound baths are that you don't have to be spiritual. You don't have to be anything. They work for everybody, because they work on all these different levels. So they work on a physical level, on an emotional level, and on a more mental / spiritual level. So whatever you need, you'll experience.
Yeah.
So the great thing about sound is that it bypasses the ego mind. So whatever the mind thinks you need, the sound will give you what you really need. What's that song? You don't always get what you want, but you get what you need,
Yes,
or something
exactly.
like that. Yeah,
Sounds,
sound baths can very much work in that way. So and some people completely fall asleep in gong baths, which, as long as they're not snoring and disturbing other people, that's perfectly fine as well, because some people actually need to be almost kind of knocked out to get the full benefit of the sound and the vibration healing. And it is like having a sonic massage, and it is scientifically proven to reach down at a cellular level. So you can, scientists have proved that sort of blood cells pump up and kind of like and become more free and fluid, rather than sticky and dehydrated after a gong bath. So it is really working on every sort of like level physically. But where most people benefit, if you don't feel like you're on a spiritual path, or you don't feel you're a particularly spiritual person, just on a physical level, it just relaxes you so much. It is able to switch off the mind chatter, because I guide you through relaxation, meditation, and then so we've got mindfulness principles coming in as well. So it's just slowing down, our busy minds. And I teach you how to let go and just start to surrender. And then just let you float, just let you float on the sounds of the gongs and the bowls. And, you know, we're not trying to stop thought. We can't stop thinking. But what we can do is learn to let go of thinking that doesn't serve us, that's not really helping us. So, negative stories or mind loops that we can often get trapped in. When you're having those imaginary conversations with the person that annoyed you yesterday, and what you should have said and what they could have said, and all that sort of thing, the kind of thing that keeps you awake at night at 1 a.m, going over and over and over things. It teaches you how to let go of those thoughts and just drop down into your deeper consciousness of who you really are. And all of us are the same, is that we just want peace, happiness, joy, and love. And anybody that doesn't say that is fooling themselves, really. Because every human being is like that at their core, and they only turn into something else through wounding and through outside programming and limiting beliefs. So everybody can get back to that point of peace. Everybody can get back into that feeling of unconditional love and peace and joy. It's it's natural. That's our natural state of being. So it's just a matter of I'm using the sounds and what I say to help you get back into alignment with that, rather than trying to get you to experience something that you don't know. You already know it. You've just forgotten how to tune that dial in. It is a bit like the old-fashioned radios, that when you tune in to the proper channel, everything's clear. You can clink clear, and the music's beautiful. And but if you start to go off, you get that interference. So my sound baths are very kind of like heart based, really. It's getting back into the heart space, and then you can once you're heart centered in present moment awareness, you can then reach up into the higher mind, rather than being stuck in what I call the lower ego mind, which is where all our limiting beliefs and our wounds are. It's almost like the wiser part of yourself can be accessed once you're deeply relaxed and in that heart center. So that's really what sound baths, what I, that's my passion for sound baths, really, is to remind you who you are, and that you are love and peace, and we can experience that any time that we wish to, if we know how to do it. So I'm just kind of like, I suppose, teaching people to remember you know, who they are.
The inner Buddha.
Yeah. Rather
I
than
think
trying
that's
to repair something that's broken, because it's just an illusion that we're broken.
we don't need fixing. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. We just need to remember, you know, that how to dial in. That.
And I think that's why this sand bath, while we're doing the chakra cleanse, is going to be such a beautiful experience, because your healing energy from the sounds and obviously the vibration that causes is while we're balancing and aligning and cleansing each of the chakras. We do lower chakras, your survival chakras that tend to get knocked off by, you know, life events and trauma and one thing and another, and then coming into the heart and then starting to open up through the higher chakras and just bringing all of that into alignment, you know, so that that energy can flow beautifully. You know, it's just going to be such a lovely experience. You know, I think that's, you know, and you're going to do some singing bowls, sort of a guide, you know, sort of taking us a journey through the chakras with the singing bowls. That's right.
Yeah, because so I've got a set of quartz crystal singing bowls, and we have different notes that resonate with each chakra. So the root chakra resonates the note of C, low C. So the next chakra up would be D, and that's the sacral, and then E for the solar plexus. F is the heart, and then G the throat, A third eye, and then B the crown. So these notes have been found to, you know, resonate with these energy, and it's all to do with frequency, different vibrations, you know. But then we get into, you know, that gets into the real kind of science boffin sort of bit of sound therapy, which I haven't got I don't retain that kind of data very well. I just know what works, and I just, you know, I'm a touchy-feely person, so I'm very guided by my intuition. But yeah, so we'll be using the crystal singing bowls. The singing bowls, they're 99% quartz crystal, and quartz crystal, of course, is it's a purifier, it's a cleanser, it's an amplifier. It amplifies sound and vibration, and we're mostly water, so we're amazing conductors of sound and vibration. And the difference between the crystal singing bowls, as opposed to what people would probably think of the metal singing bowls, the Tibetan singing bowls, is that the Tibetan singing bowls, they'll have 2 or 3 notes in them. So you tap it and they'll have a fundamental note, but they'll have overtones and undertones as well. Whereas the crystal bowls, they're pure notes. So when I'm playing the C bowl, it's just a C. So it's almost like using sound as a laser to sort of like get into your root chakra and really kind of like move the energy and move it about. So if you think of your chakras like a room, like we were saying earlier, it's the energetic equivalent of opening the windows, opening the curtains, and giving it a good sort of like, you know, a good spruce, a good moving the energy a good sweep, a good hoover. That's what sound can do to your energy centers. So we'll go through each of the you know, each of the chakras in turn with each of the crystal bowls. And people often say that by the time you get to the crown, you're just completely sort of like buzzing. And you can use visualization as well. So you can use the colors, you know, you can use you know, again, it's using your imagination that without thinking that anything is wrong or it's not working or whatever. It's just use your imagination, be like a child, and just imagine, you know, the color red with the note of C, you know, clearing and cleansing chakra. Some people, as you know, see it as like a spinning wheel of light, and other people will visualize like maybe a rose or a flower opening, or it doesn't matter, or a vortex, you know, a waterfall. It doesn't matter, whatever you want to visualize, you can visualize it as we're playing the sound. So it's really powerful, and people love it. So
I'm super excited. I can't wait. It'll be really cool. Do you want to talk anything about like the metaphysical benefits of the sound baths, and you know that?
Yeah, I mean, I've already kind of covered a little bit of it, because when you're heart centered, and when you're in the heart center, and when you're in present moment awareness and grounded, then you know the the kind of more ego driven mind isn't in operation anymore. It's not in charge anymore. So it's almost like the mind is one record player over here and the heart is the record player over there. And what you're doing is, in our society, you know, the mind record player is just kind of like so loud that you can't hear your heart and what your heart's saying, what your intuition's saying. So we're just kind of like turning down the volume of the mind and turning the volume of the heart up. And what the thing is with the heart center is that is the gateway to your soul almost. Through the heart center is your connection to your multidimensionality as an energy being. So most of us understand um, that we are a soul, that we're not just a human, you know, body, that there is something of us that transcends physical matter, that goes on, that you know, that survives death. So whether you're religious or spiritual, it doesn't matter. You know, all religions and spiritual teachings have that at their core, that we're not just our physical bodies, that there is something else out there. What you think that is, or what you prefer to think of it is, you know, that's personal choice. And it's whatever resonates with you. And certainly, you know, over my 50 years, my ideas of things have changed. You know, I was brought up as a Christian, but then I went off into sort of like more, I suppose, shamanistic sort of teachings, because they kind of like resonated in ways that the Christian pathway didn't. I found a lot of gaps that I didn't have any answers to. So that took me into shamanism. And then I suppose over the last 10 years, I've got more connected to the angelic realms, and it's predominantly the angelic realms that I connect with now. So however far you want to go on a sound bath is entirely up to you. You know, I would just say that the people that have the best experiences are just people that just let go and aren't judging what's coming into their head and coming into their imagination. So like my first gong bath, you know, instead of sort of like thinking, well, you're not a Native American sat on a mountain, that's just silly. You know, instead of thinking that with my kind of like ego analytical mind, I was just like, oh wow, this would be amazing. I wonder what it feels like, you know, to be an elder and, you know, Native American woman. I wonder what sort of life she had. And it's almost like I started getting memories of her life and what she'd done. So I later, of course, trained to be a past life regression therapist. And now I look back at that experience and I understand that I was actually tapping into, you know, a past life of mine. So, and again, it's kind of like whether you believe that you have past lives or not doesn't really matter. Just explore how it feels, because once you know something, you can't unknow it. And that is my experience with connecting with other parts of myself and other lives that I've had, is that it's so visceral. It's like it's just as real as a memory from this life because it brings emotion with it. So after a while, when you've been working with energy for a while, you realize that your imagination, if it's just your imagination that you're making something up, it's actually quite flat. There's a, you know, and kind of two-dimensional. But if you're tapping into older wisdom, either from this life or another life, or from, you know, in between lives even, then it comes with this kind of knowing and this feeling. And once you've tapped into it, it's like a file on the computer that you've opened, and it's kind of like, and it's there, and it, you know, it's you can't unknow it. That's the only way I can describe it. So sound baths are a beautiful way of allowing yourself to open up to this and letting your mind drift and letting, you know, and just seeing what comes in. Some people do intentionally set an intention to connect with their spirit guides, connect with their guardian angel, or again, whatever resonates with you. And I make it a safe space for you to do that. So I work energetically with the hall or the space. So, you know, the sound bath that you came of mine to Evesham, before anybody gets there, you know, I create that space. I cleanse it with sound and usually some incense before you get there, so that it is a safe energetic space for anybody that wants to have a more spiritual experience or journey. Then they can do so without, you know, without fear of, of sort of like outside interference, shall we say. Yeah, so it's kind of it's like, again, you know, taking it to sort of more human analogy. If somebody was coming round to your house, you'd kind of like make sure that the bed was changed and, you know, that you cleaned the loo sort of thing, so it was a nice experience for them. And it's the same thing energetically. You know, I make sure that it's a clean and you know, safe space for you to journey in.
Sounds amazing. I can't wait. I can't wait. Excellent. Angie, thanks so much for your time. I really, really appreciate it.
Okay.
And I look forward to seeing you at the next Sandbar.
Yeah, it'd be great. Thank you.